Hey, what's going on, guys? John here again with another video. Today we're going to be learning a lot of cool stuff. We're looking at arrays, we're looking at functions, we're looking at for loops. It's going to be awesome. Got some good news though, got a new mic. You know, Corona tried to stop us, tried to say, no, you can't order anything on Amazon, but I got it anyway, same day delivery, no big deal. But yeah, let's get right into it. So today, what we're going to start with is arrays. Arrays are basically a list of anything you want. Last video I said there's numbers, there's text, there's true or false values. Today we're just going to be looking at numbers and text. So here we have an array of numbers. What an array is, again, is that just a list. So this array has a list of 10 numbers. And here the first one's 5, 8, 1, 3. Super simple. And here there's an array of text. And it just says, like, the first element is what, second element is happens if we loop here. You know, pretty straightforward. Now, one of the most important things about arrays is that they're zero indexed. What that means is that the first element is the zeroth element. It's not first, it's technically zeroth. So this is the zeroth element, this is the first element. 8 would be the first element, 1 would be the second element, and so on and so forth. That's really simple to understand. You don't have to overthink it. But it's very crucial to what we're going to get to later. So just keep that in mind as you watch this video. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I guess I can take that after. I can talk about it after, just this dot length property, but we can get into it after. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, last video we saw a bit of it, functions. So what a function is, here you go, you see function, test, and array. What does this mean, John? Like, what am I seeing here? So basically, a function is like a procedure. It's a task that you're telling the code to do. The important thing to note is here we're defining the function. So here we're writing what it does, and here we're actually using it. So this function is called test, and it takes in what's between these two brackets is what it takes in as the parameter. So here it takes in an array. So if I just had this, nothing would happen, right? If I'd remove this line, nothing would happen. My code is like literally doing nothing. What you have to do after that is, after you define it, you have to actually use the array. So how you use the array, you just write test, and then you give it what you want. Now, you don't always have to give it something. This could be blank, but in this case, we're giving an array, and what we're giving it is this array, numbers. So basically, that's all you have to know about functions for now. Super basic stuff, and let's get into the meat of this video. So what we have here is a for loop. If you had to guess, I don't know if you could guess based on for loop. It's not that intuitive. But what it basically does is use for loops to loop through every element in an array. So here we want to loop through each one of these and kind of do something with it. You can do cool stuff with everything in the array. So there's a couple of things you have to know before you use a for loop. The first thing is, what is going on in here, right? Like, what is I equals 0, array.length, I++, what is I++? We'll go through all that right now. So the first thing you have to do is you have to tell the array where to start. This is like the iterator value, kind of. So you're iterating through every element of the array, starting at element 0. So like I said before, 0 index. So the first element we're going to look at based on this is the 0th element, which is 5 in this case, right? So you're defining, like last video we went over defining variables. So you're defining the variable I is equal to 0. Now, then you have a semicolon. I think the semicolon, yeah. So what is the second thing you're giving the for loop? This is the condition into which to continue until. So this says while I, which starts at 0, is less than array.length. So array.length literally is just the length of the array. So here, array.length, we're looking at numbers. So the length of this is 10. So while I is less than 10, it'll keep going. Once it reaches 10, it stops. That's it. And then I++, plus is just a way to increment this value. So it runs once, this for loop will run one time, and then I will go up. So let's just really get into it. So what this does, it'll print out every element of the array. So right here, array I is how you access an element. So if you have numbers, right, you have this array called numbers, and you want to access this number 8, what you would do is, you see number 8 equals numbers 1. 1. And that will give you the value of 8. Why is it 1? Because, like I said before, it starts off at 0. So if it had 0, it will return the value 5. right? So it would run once, console log, it will print out 5. Then the next time, the value will be 1 because I++ right here. So, and then it'll print out 8. Then it'll keep going, print out 1, print out 3, print out 4, and so on and so forth. So let's try running this right now and see what happens. Whoops. There you go. So what's it doing? 5, 8, 1, 3, 4, boom, boom, boom. It prints out every single element of the array just in the same order. That's literally it. Guys, what you have to remember about for loops is that you tell it where to start, you define the iterator, you tell it when to keep going until, and then you tell it how to increment. Like this, I can make this I equals, I can make it 2, so it increments by 2, right? So then it'll skip each and every single one. Now it only goes 5, 1, 4, 9, 7. You see, because I'm not adding 1, I'm adding 2 to each after each iteration of the for loop. So I know it's kind of confusing to understand, but just rewatch the video, like try to pause and like try to think about what I'm saying. But it really does make sense if you think about it. So now some kind of like bonus information, I guess. What are these green things? You know, these are called comments. Basically, what you do sometimes is you comment out code or you add comments. Like, for example, if you're writing code and then you have a for loop you want to say like, oh, this for loop prints every number, right? So it's just a really easy way for developers to keep track of what each thing is doing, and so it doesn't get complicated, especially when there's a lot of people working on the same project. It gets super complex. So if this is another way to comment stuff, if I uncomment this, what you can do is you can actually sort. You can sort the array. So this is kind of for a future video, but also just so you can get an idea of what you can do with arrays. So what'll happen now is that I am sorting the array that's given, which is numbers right here, right? So you have, don't confuse this array with anything else. Like this is just a placeholder because what I'm actually giving it is numbers. So I'm sorting this array ascending. So what it should print out right now when I run this, first it sorts, then it prints out all the values. So instead of printing out all of these, it should just print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see if that happens. Hopefully. Oh, you see 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. It's already a difference here, but that's just because I'm adding 2. But if I go back to the original one and I just run it right now, boom. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Yeah. That's basically it for that. Like, I just want you guys to get an idea of what you can really do with arrays. It's pretty awesome. And then another way. Oh, also let's see what happens when I give it strings. Right? We've only been working with numbers so far, but look, I give it strings, this array. What do you think will happen? It treats every array the same way, whether it's numbers, whether it's these strings, whether it's God knows what. Like, it'll literally treat everything the same. So if I run this array now, run this function right now, it'll just print out what happens if we loop here. It's really easy, guys. You don't have to overthink this kind of stuff. And the last thing I wanted to show you is that you can also do, instead of this complicated way of doing it, you can just do array dot for each. So what that does is, instead of you defining the length and all this complicated stuff, it literally just loops through everyone and does whatever you want. This is like a simpler way to loop through arrays where you don't have to think about all this I++, all this garbage over here. So exact same thing will happen if I run it right now. It prints out what happens if we loop here. That's basically it, guys. Make sure to rewatch the videos. Like, I know watching it first time, it could be confusing, but I really think that it's not that hard to understand. You just have to think about it and play around with it. Copy this code and kind of work around with it yourself and see what you can do. Sweet. Have a good day, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe.